On this week's Eastern Conference edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, second round is in full swing. We've got coach hirings around the league and the MVP nominees, both from the media and from the players, have been decided. And guess what? They're different. We'll get into all that and more on this week's Eastern Conference edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. Your team every day.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. I'm Ross Levitan. You can find me over at Locked On Ottawa Senators. Alongside me is from the Battle of Ontario, from Locked On Maple Leafs, it is Mike DiStefano. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Go check out Game Time and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first ticketing purchase. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, use Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Today is Wednesday, May 8th. Congratulations to the San Jose Sharks for winning the NHL Draft Lottery. The Chicago Blackhawks will go second. Mikey, 0 moves in the draft lottery for the first time since 2010.
Yeah, I thought for half an hour or so that we were going to potentially, actually a few hours, I should say, we were going to see movement. I don't know if you saw the John Buccigross tweet about midday. Apparently they were just running simulations or they were just testing things, but it did for a second read San Jose, then Utah as 1-2, but I guess that's not how it finished out. And yeah, San Jose gets the number one pick, and boy, do they ever need a Macklin Celebrini. That team was god-awful this year. They were losing. They gave up like 7 or 8 times where they gave up double-digit goals this year. It was disgusting how poor this team was constructed. And it was right from the get-go. They knew that they were going to be a terrible squad, and they were going scorched earth. And now, you know, they will get the opportunity to draft Macklin Celebrini and try and get themselves back to the good old days, back in the mid 2000s, 2010s, where they were perennial cup contenders.
Well, the thing that I like about this is I'm a sucker for a good narrative, and his dad is the director of sports science with the Golden State Warriors. See, we claim him, though. He's a Vancouver kid. Team Canada proud, 8 points at World Juniors last year as an underager. He is a stud, but also has the connection to the Bay Area. So I like that he's going home in a sense. He used to play before COVID. The year before COVID, he played for the San Jose Junior Sharks.
Yeah, which is cool. That now he's going to play for the big club, right? The parent club. I believe he also was he not just at the Gretzky Helenka and absolutely tore it up there as well. Never mind. That was Gavin McKenna. Never mind.
Yeah, he's not even next year's draft. Gavin McKenna. He is the year after. He's a whole another level of superstar. But
cousin of Connor Bedard too.
Yeah, I saw that. Through in-laws, though, not blood relatives, but in-laws there through marriage. That's still super cool, though. When it comes to Macklin Celebrini, he was actually initially named to the World's Men's Championships, but as players got eliminated, Pierre-Luc Dubois gets the honor to go over there. He gets a vacation out of it. Shocker that he loves that. But also, what we love in sports is the storylines, and we got a lot of them this week. I don't want to start with the playoffs. You can go to the second segment. You want to hear us talk about last night's New York Rangers win in double overtime, because they age out pretty quick. Like, we're already on to tonight's matchup between the Florida Panthers and Boston Bruins, game 2 of that series, after Boston earned a huge win in game 1 despite being outshot heavily. 5-1 was the score there. So we'll talk about that in the next segment. I want to get to the MVP discussion right away. And just to finish off, kind of leading in, we'll finish off today's show with the news that the Ottawa Senators have hired Travis Green as their head coach. Press conference later today. Drew Bannister going to St. Louis as a full-time head coach. He was the interim. The coaching discussion will wait till the end of the show. But I found this so interesting that the Ted Lindsay Award, which is voted on by the players, that came out today, that Nikita Kucherov, Nathan MacKinnon, and Austin Matthews are the 3 nominees, which is different than the 3 nominees we found out yesterday, voted on by the media, for the MVP, the Hart Trophy, which was Nathan MacKinnon, which was Nikita Kucherov, but Connor McDavid. So how do you handicap the difference between McDavid and Matthews and how these are different?
They're both wrong. Both the league, the players, and the media got them wrong, in my opinion, in terms of who should be on the ballots. The fact that Connor McDavid is not on the ballot as like a top 3 player in the league as voted on by the players is just asinine. Like, we all know and concede that he's the best player on the planet. The fact that he's not considered a top 3 this season is wild. Like, sure, Kucherov and McKinnon had more points than McDavid did, but like, let's be honest here. There's nobody better on the planet than that guy. So was preposterous that he didn't even show up on the Ted Lindsay ballot. In terms of the MVP ballot, you could go ahead and you could say that I'm being a homer pick, but I do believe that Auston Matthews should have been nominated among the top 3. He's not my favorite. My favorite is Nathan MacKinnon. I think he probably should win it. And it's not just because I have a 20-1 ticket on FanDuel that I'm hoping to cash. It's because I think that he legitimately deserves it. But I do think that Auston Matthews, like, if I were to have done a ballot, and keep in mind, these ballots have zero to do with the playoffs, which people need to just understand. You wouldn't believe the amount of people in my mentions yesterday talking about how, how could he be valuable? His team did squat in the playoffs and the rest of the guys are still playing, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, these ballots are submitted before the playoffs even start. They were submitted on the last day of the season and has nothing to do with the playoffs. It's all about regular season. And a guy who scores 69 goals is a Selke candidate, is a Lady Byng candidate, and now, according to the players, is a candidate for the Ted Lindsay, certainly should have been a candidate, a top 3 guy at least, for the MVP. I think that Auston Matthews was snubbed out of a nomination here.
I think that's pretty interesting. I don't think it matters because I think Nikita Kucherov is going to win it, though.
No, Nikita Kucherov is the guy to kick off.
No, he's going to win it. Sorry.
Make your case. Make your case for Kucherov.
It's just a matter of how much better he is than everyone else on his team this year. I think that's like, I was MacKinnon all year, and I probably am playing a little bit of devil's advocate here because I do think MacKinnon is ridiculous. But to have, 54 points more than the next player on your team is absolutely bonkers. Like, think about how good Cale Makar is. He's probably top 5 on Hart Trophy ballots. He's that good.
Yeah, Cale Makar is fantastic. I'll spit out a couple of numbers for you, actually. Yeah. You can actually
let me finish with one other thing, because everyone's like, oh, Nikita Kucherov, he's a what were they calling him? A power play merchant, I kept hearing. Well, MacKinnon had one more even strength point than him. He was second in the league in even strength points.
5-on-5, MacKinnon had 12 more points than Kucherov at 5-on-5.
So what's that, overtime? Or 4-on-4 otherwise?
4-on-4, 3-on-3, overtime, 4-on-4, and 5-on-5. Yeah.
Even strength is even strength. I don't really care 5-on-5 versus 3-on-3.
Well, I mean, there's a difference. 3-on-3, it's easier to score. Like, it's
don't you think Nathan MacKinnon's skill set theoretically would be better for 3-on-3 than Kucherov?
Well, regardless, he's still, I mean, the fact that he's able to dominate the game when there's more players on the ice, I think is better than Kucherov.
Clutch scene, overtime.
Well, here's one statistic that to me means a little bit more, and you're diving a little bit deeper into the analytics and whatnot. But for me, like, primary points, I think is a valuable analytic to look at, because to me that's a play driver. If you have a strong primary points numbers, that means that you've either scored or that you were the direct result of the goal because you got the first assist, you set up the play and made it happen. So for me, primary points is a big number that I like to look at. And when I look at the 4 players who are in contention for this year's MVP, Auston Matthews, Nikita Kucherov, Connor McDavid, and Nathan MacKinnon, Nathan MacKinnon was first with 61 5-on-5 primary points. Auston Matthews was second with 55 primary points this season at 5-on-5. McDavid had 51. He was fourth. Kucherov, 50 primary points. He was fourth among the 4 guys there. So that is one thing to me when you talk about MVP, who's your most valuable player. Well, if you're talking about primary points, that's point drivers, literally converting points for you or goals for you. McKinnon is far and away better than all of these players. And Matthews actually came in second between the foursome there that were all in contention for the MVP, which I thought was very interesting to see.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And look, these guys, we're kind of nitpicking here because they're obviously all the best of the best in the MVP.
I'll give you my I don't necessarily have a strong. I want to hear your Kucherov case because I don't necessarily like Kucherov is right there. Don't get me wrong. All four of these players are right there in the conversation. It's not that it's an absolute albatross that, Kucherov was in there over Matthews. I just would have put Matthews in over Kucherov. And the biggest reason, and this, your jaw's going to drop when you hear me blurt out this statistic, but I'm put context behind it where it's going to make sense to you. Okay. There is an archaic statistic in the world of hockey called plus minus, Ross. Plus minus. Nikita Kucherov led the league with 144 points this year, yet was just a +8.
There were only 4 players on Tampa that were over +5.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we're talking about how can you possibly be an MVP if you're only on the ice for 8 additional goals for your team than against you? When you look at Matthews, McDavid, and McKinnon, who are all on the ice. But you look at the team. Well, look at the team. Okay, go look at the team. Go look at the team. Matthews and Nylander, right? They were 9 points apart from each other this year. Matthews had a plus-minus differential of +30 on William Nylander. +30, because Matthews can actually play defense, keep the puck out of the net, unlike Nikita Kucherov. And to me, that should have mattered and counted when we talk about MVP and the best players in the league. You look at Austin Matthews, number one amongst those 4 players, had the least amount of giveaways, the most takeaways, the most block shots, had the best face-off percentage, and was second to McDavid in terms of hits at 5-on-5. Austin Matthews had far better numbers than Kucherov or all of these players defensively. And, he scored 69 goals this year. Come on. Yeah. And when you talk about plus minus, again, it's an archaic stat. And without context, I don't really care about it. Doesn't mean a whole lot. But when you look at Kucherov, the fact that he had 144 points and was just a +8 when the rest of those 3 guys were all +31 or better this season, I think that it matters.
Do you think it's harder to score on the road than at home? Or do you not subscribe to that?
I mean, slightly. Ultimately, I guess a little bit, because the opposition has, the right to put out their matchup line.
They can line match you. Exactly.
Yeah.
So from 3 to 11, let's stop at Sidney Crosby, but it really just goes one by one from 3 on. Austin Matthews tied with Philip Forsberg with 53 points on the road. Artemi Panarin had 60. That's really good. 7 more. Kucherov had 15 more points than anybody else on the road this year. I don't think that should go. Without Kucherov, Tampa doesn't even make playoffs. That's, to me, he's the difference between them making playoffs and not.
I mean, you could probably say similar things about all of these players. I mean, you take McDavid off, you take McKinnon off, take Matthews off their teams. There's a good chance that all 4 of these guys, if they aren't,
well, not all of them were wild card teams, though, right? Like the Tampa just got in.
Yeah, but I mean, none of them won their division either. Like, you look at Colorado, they were 3rd in their division. Toronto was 3rd in their division. And the Edmonton Oilers, I mean, they were like dead last in the league in the first 2 months of the season. So, I don't know. I like, again, it's not that Kucherov he obviously had an electric season. The guy had 100 assists. It's incredible. He had a great year. I'm not trying to take away from it. I just think when you accompany some defensive metrics into the picture, I think Matthews had a far more superior season than Kucherov did.
Let us know in the comments who your MVP picks are. One thing was for sure, they're both Austin Matthews and Nikita Kucherov going home with some hardware. Kucherov getting the Art Ross for most points, and Austin Matthews with 69 goals getting the Maurice Rocket Richard Trophy. On the other side, a little playoff talk. We'll wrap up today's show with the coaching situation going across the National Hockey League. That's all next. You're listening to Locked On NHL, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NHL. It makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down closer it gets to puck drop with killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views and receipts, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. They've got flash deals. They've got zone deals, all-in pricing. But my favorite, the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends with Indeed. When you are making a team at work, you know you need to have the best talent. And with Indeed, the best hiring platform on earth, you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates, Indeed's powerful hiring platform can help you do it all. We streamline hiring with powerful tools that find you matched candidates. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resumes with Indeed match their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to U.S. data on Indeed. Indeed does the hard work for you. And even better, Indeed's the only job site where you only pay for applications that meet your must-have job requirements. Join the more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/lockedon. That's Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Welcome back, Locked On NHL, your team every day. Make sure you check out all the great shows across the Locked On network, from basketball, baseball, football, and hockey. We are local experts on the biggest stories. For more from me, you can go check out Locked On Senators. Been a busy week over there with the hiring of Travis Green. We'll get to that in the final segment. The Leafs and Locked On Leafs co-host Mike DiStefano been talking a lot about Mitch Marner, the offseason changes. So go check that out over at Locked On Maple Leafs. But there are still lucky hosts like our guy John Chick over at Locked On New York Rangers who are still watching their teams play, and double overtimes. And you know the Carolina Hurricanes, and I mean Locked On Hurricanes got a new host there. Zach's just lucky. He's living with this Hurricanes team. They put everything on net. 57 shots on goal, but they lose the game 4-3. The hero was Vinny Trocheck. And how cool were those photos that came out? You saw the celebration. Trocheck goes right into the boards, and you could see everyone had their phones out. And NHL's official Twitter account posted one of those photos. It looks like a painting from the middle years or the middle age, where it's just kind of like one man larger than life with everybody else huddled in. Our New York Rangers, I got a plus 1,200 ticket on them to win the cup, and I'm feeling real good because they're clicking on all cylinders. Power play merchants, bring it on. Hey, don't get in the box when these guys are out there. And what the haters will not tell you is that their Rangers PK had to kill one off in double overtime right before they got their opportunity, whether it was deserved or not.
No, absolutely they did. And look, if there's anyone who can understand how important special teams is when it comes to the playoffs, it's a guy who covers the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Would they go 1 for 20?
Dude, it was a 4.8% power play and like a 63% penalty kill. The fact that they made it to Game 7 overtime was astounding with numbers like that. But that's besides the point. Dude, like the Rangers are the real deal. Like we both have kind of been on the Rangers train for a couple of years now, and now it looks like they finally have like the coach that might be able to put them over the top here in Peter Laviolette. Like he's a really good coach, and he's brought multiple teams to cup finals. So I like what he's doing. You know, Alexis Lafreniere has kind of had a breakout this season. He scored 28 goals. He got his first couple of the postseason last night as well, en route to victory. But you know, Vinny Trocheck, the overtime hero, played 35 minutes in the game. He's having a career season, and it's just continued in through the postseason here. Vinny Trocheck, who, if I'm not mistaken, is a former Hurricane as well. He spent time in Carolina, correct? Yeah.
Correct.
So a little bit of a revenge goal to sink the Hurricanes, who are now down 2-0. But what's the
we
old
saw
adage?
that in round 1 with Dallas Vegas.
Yeah, but what's the old
Except it was
adage?
at home.
It's
You're not
never
in trouble till you lose at home. And Rallywood is going to be buzzing for game 3.
Now, here's what went through my mind about this, though. They're down 2-0, and look, they've been right there. Obviously, like that was as close as you can go, going to double overtime, trading chances. They had like 57 shots on net. Igor was outstanding, but they're back into the same kind of territory they were in last year in round 3. And do you remember the comment that was made after round 3? It wasn't a sweep. They lost 4 games in a row, but it wasn't a sweep if you watch the games. Are they heading into that territory again, Ross?
I don't think it would be as like, I know that it's not even close to there yet, but like to me, this Rangers team, they just ran into an amazing team, in my opinion. I think this Rangers team, they've been building, like you said, we've been banging their drum now. This is, I think, our 3rd season doing it. They have the goaltending. They have the depth on defense. They have guys who bring something different on every pair on the blue line. They've got speed. They've got range. They've got offense. They've got depth on offense. They've got the grit, the sandpaper that they didn't have in the past. They, to me, are just kind of like clicking on all cylinders right now. The power play is ridiculous at a 40% clip right now going into the second round. Only Colorado and Edmonton have better power plays. Their PK is 93%. Like, they're getting amazing goaltending. They haven't lost a game. They're the only team in the playoffs so far that has not lost a game. They're 6-0. Like, if you're the Hurricanes, you're like, well, nobody else can beat them. I know it's just Washington, but like 6-0.
Igor cannot be killed.
No, they tried. Svechnikov tried taking out his feet.
Yeah, I want to ask you about not that play, but the other play that got a lot of heat online. The Choo Choo Trouba train left the tracks yesterday. Who did he hit? I'm blanking on who.
Oh, it was Nachas. I think I'm mispronouncing it.
Nachas narrowly hit him. Nachas luckily kind of
that was a business decision by Nachas.
When 100% it was, because if you watch that, if Nachas doesn't fall that way, I mean, there's that elbow's coming up and that's making contact, and that could have been a bad situation.
He's an animal. He's never going to change. That's just how Trouba plays. He knows one way to play.
And you know what? I don't have a problem. Like, I wish he was a little more safer, but like at the end of the day, I don't have a problem with it because I think that in order for him to be effective, he has to play that way. He has to play on the line and with an edge. That being said, I don't believe we're going to get any supplemental discipline because there was no connection made at all or anything like that. But what did you make of that play where he left his feet?
Well, did he leave his feet before the hit, or did he leave his feet because he tripped over him?
It kind of, I mean, I guess you could look at it, but it kind of looked like he almost launched himself.
Hey, the Broadway bullies between him and Rempe. By the way, Rempe played 4 minutes in a double overtime game. Didn't see the ice after the second period. But when you have an amazing top 9, you can still roll the other 11 forwards and just give those guys a little extra ice time. Obviously, it's not ideal. Do you know that Vinny Trocheck led the team, if I'm not mistaken, in ice time in last night's game?
They're over 35 minutes last night.
Amazing. So credit to him, credit to the Rangers. For more on that, John Chick's got you covered over at Locked On Rangers. Hurricanes fans, I'm really sorry, but we've had the Rangers pom-poms on. It's not about you. It's about us.
Yeah, you thought they were going to lose to the Islanders.
I know.
They don't stand a chance to the Rangers in your eyes, I'm sure.
No, my final is Edmonton and the New York Rangers, and that's in full flight right now. Game 1 tonight, by the way, Oilers and Canucks. Like, it's about time. It's about time.
Dude, I know. I still don't understand why they didn't play Monday. Like,
I mean, if you're a Canucks fan, though, you're happy. Give Thatcher Demko as much time as possible. Push things back, and he's been listed out until at least Game 4. Our fellas over at Locked On Canucks will have you covered on that. But on the other side, some coaching movement and potentially a couple more openings to come. I'll ask Mikey about the Leafs situation, and we'll get into the Ottawa Senators hiring of Travis Green. That's all next. You're listening to Locked On NHL, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Monopoly Go is literally my favorite game. I play it all the time. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes that you can unlock. There's so much to get. I'm talking unique stickers that you can trade with friends to complete albums for prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. Hilarious emojis, ha ha ha, for taunting friends when you smash their buildings and heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win, or how about some rent frenzies? There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and download it now on Google Play or the App Store. Game on with Monopoly Go. Is the grass greener? Welcome back to Locked On NHL. I'm Ross Levitan from Locked On Senators. That's Mike DiStefano from Locked On Maple Leafs. Finally.
Do you have an announcement to make or something?
Well, Travis Green will be introduced as the Ottawa Senators head coach.
Not that. Is there news with Rachel that I'm unaware of, or
no? I'm not even wearing my ring right now.
Well, that was one of the worst dad jokes that I've ever heard in my life.
Nice. No, we are. And by the way, my wife's name is actually Rachel. People probably looking down, seeing Ross. I mean, is he playing a Friends joke on him right now?
No, that is funny. Ross and
Rachel. You know what? I could even further the dad joke. Ottawa used to have Logan Brown, Josh Brown, and Colin White at the same time. So they love their colors here in Ottawa because now Travis Green is the head coach. Travis Green is one of the most hated players in Senators history. You might remember him from that game in 2003 where he and Shane Knighty got into it behind the net. Huge hit, Green laid on Knighty. Then all hell breaks loose, and Darcy Tucker jumps in the Senators bench after Travis Green was pointing at Chris Neil. It was complete chaos. Classic Battle of Ontario days. And now he's the Sens head coach. But you obviously follow the Vancouver Canucks as well through your years. Like, what's the scouting report on Travis Green? Because Sens fans online were very upset. They had their sights set on Craig Berube and Craig Berube only. But to me, I'm getting a lot of Rick Tocchet vibe from him, where when he came into that role, his previous coaching experience, the win-loss record was not pretty. But he kind of has that, hey, we're going to outwork every team, and we also care about analytics. Is that kind of the right sense I'm getting on Travis Green?
Yeah, I think so. And look, Travis Green got, the
short end of the stick.
There it is, the short end of the stick. That's the better SH word to use on this family-friendly program. He got the short end of the stick when he was in Vancouver. I mean, I think a lot of people looked at that group and said, this is not Travis Green doing a bad coaching job. It's just, for whatever reason, it's not working. The players aren't firing, and the GM was an issue at the time. Benning was still around, and everybody knew that it was just a tough situation. But I think there was a lot of respect for Green, and he came up through the American League ranks, took their Utica Comets team all the way to a Memorial Cup. Calder Cup championship with them back in, I think it was 2012, 13, something like that.
Yep.
Frankie Corrado, good friend of mine, was on the team. Markstrom was on the team back in the day. So,
by the way, that's where I'm looking right now, because Ottawa needs a goalie. I'm curious if they make Calgary a big offer this summer for Jacob Markstrom.
Well, yeah, I would try. I mean, definitely I would try to do something like that if they're going to move on from him. And there is obviously that connection there with Markstrom and Green. But ultimately, I wonder how much of the Senators fans not liking this has to do with the history with Travis Green that you alluded to.
Dude, go Google it if you haven't seen it. It's unreal. Just type in Tucker Neil bench. It's amazing.
But also how much hate is stemming from the further reporting about how this was maybe the cheaper option of the ones available. Like, how much is he getting hate because of that further report, do you think?
Yeah, I think also it was a bit shocking when it came out. People were already mad, and I'll address what you're saying there. But when it came out, it's a 4-year contract where it's like typically, coach, it's like 2+ an option or a 3-year deal. So to get that extra year, people were like a little confused by it. Now, on the flip side, we've just seen 4 coaches get fired before they even enter their extension. So it's all kind of, a bit of a wash. Now, when it comes to the money, I think a lot of Sens fans are once bitten, twice shy. And you could even go on to say like 9 times bitten, because our guy Steve Lloyd from TSN 1200 pointed out that at the time of being hired, the Ottawa Senators have only hired 2 coaches with more previous head coaching experience than Travis Green. They've hired multiple coaches that had never had previous jobs. So it's almost like that's been a big fault of the Ottawa Senators. The Senators had Jacques Martin, plus this one, I'm not even counting this one. He was their head coach in the early 2000s for like 8 years, and they still have had 14 head coaches in a 32-year history. Like, they have not been able to have extended head coaches, and I know that's the way of the world right now in the NHL. Longest-serving head coach outside of John Cooper's like 2018. It's wild how much turnover there is right now in the NHL, but I think a lot of Sens fans see that, and they saw that there had been budget hirings for so long. Now, where you get to a kind of a gray area here is, were they not willing to pay Berube market value, or is Berube asking for what they consider above market value? Because people might forget, Craig Berube could sit on his ass at home and still get paid his entire amount of money that the St. Louis Blues owe him. So, of course, you're going to either need that or more to get back into it. Otherwise, wait for the right opportunity that comes along. So I think that there's a very strong likelihood that Berube said, hey, if you want me to come to Ottawa, you're giving me the old Babcock deal, like 7 years, $7 million. You're paying for it. So I do think there's that gray area where it's like, was it a bargain bin hire, or was it just you're not going to the extreme high echelon of where some coaches are going to be demanding, like Rod Brindamore this summer probably has a resume where he could demand that much. Craig Berube's got the shine of winning the 2019 Stanley Cup, taking a ragtag last place team and pushing it there. So, you know what? My first opinion was like, look, we're hearing all these Todd McClellan, who's coached over 1,000 games, Dean Evison, who always makes the playoffs, never gets out of the first round though, and Craig Berube. And it's a little bit of a, can we ever get nice things in Ottawa? But I've actually warmed up to it from the standpoint where personality-wise, he is what the Senators need. They need a guy who's going to come in and take the DJ Smith Country Club environment in training camp. And we've seen the photos from Vancouver training camp, and that's what I'm hopeful will kind of set the tone. And another kind of note that they brought up on 32 Thoughts, and funny enough, there's actually a trade rumor I found from 2001 in the newspaper that Keith Tkachuk was almost a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs in the same trade that Travis Green was sent there. So Travis Green and Keith Tkachuk played in Phoenix for a number of years together. So I do think that, look, you don't want to let the inmates run the asylum, the old saying, but I do think that your captain, your head coach, and your general manager should all be on the same page. And I think that Travis Green is kind of a Steve Stais, Brady Tkachuk liaison in a perfect way.
Yeah, I think Greeny will really, really like Brady Tkachuk, and I think Tkachuk will respect to, what Green wants to do with this franchise. So we'll see if it works out. Obviously, the Senators, outside of that one magical run back in 2017, have not had a whole lot to celebrate over the last decade and a half. But we'll see if Travis Green can finally right that ship. A lot of good talent, lots of talent. We know this, but someone's got to cultivate it, and we'll see if Green can make it happen. Interestingly,
Sheldon Keefe next, though.
Yeah, I guess we can get there quickly. I'm from an outsider's perspective, I'm curious where you sit, if you think he's going to be back or not.
I'm curious. He sounded like he was done at the press conference. He was like crying.
Wow.
It was hard to watch.
But he had
I got to a bit of it.
He had a very similar press conference last year.
Did he?
Stuck around. Yeah.
I'm always wary when a guy underperforms. I think it's fair to say they underperform. They had higher aspirations. There's a different general manager because they have no ties to them. I think that's where, to me, he's a Dubas guy. I could see Sheldon Keefe coaching the Pittsburgh Penguins next year.
Dude, I was just about to like jokingly say you should have just waited. They should have waited. Sullivan would have been available pretty soon.
I
But
heard
anyway.
I heard he's like New Jersey really likes him.
Yeah, but anyway, it's besides the point. That was
Yeah.
my bad attempt at making a joke. Uh Look, if I had
You sullied it.
Oh God. Okay, we're gonna move past that. If I had to make a wager, I think Sheldon Keefe is let go also over the next couple of days. I figured that the news would come down either Wednesday, and maybe it happens in between us recording and this going live, or Thursday. If he makes it to Thursday or Friday, I suppose, because management is speaking on Friday now. If he makes it to Friday, I think they've made the decision that they're sticking around. Now, they moved the original press conference from Thursday to Friday. I don't know if that was to give themselves more time to make the decision, if that, Gabe was trying to give them more time to realize, okay, we're going to move on, but who else can we get? Craig Berube has also been involved in rumors, reports that they would be interested in bringing him in. And since he did not go to Ottawa, maybe that's because there's something potentially lined up with Toronto should Sheldon Keefe get fired. But I'll say this. I do think Sheldon Keefe deserves credit for this playoff series. I thought that, many seasons you could look and say that Sheldon was outcoached. I don't think that was the case in this series. I think Sheldon Keefe did a really good job. I think Sheldon Keefe made the necessary adjustments to get this team to buy in. And they finally just bought in as a group too. And you saw how this team eventually got to playoff stature in games 5, 6, and 7. It was too late, obviously, and not just because it was 5 games into the series, but also 5 years and 5 games into the series until, you finally saw the complete buy-in from the team. But I do wonder if at least that little glimmer of what you saw there, of what could be if given one more kick at the can, does get him another season. He did also sign an extension that kicks in this summer, I might add. So will he be another one of those coaches fired before the extension kicks in, or do they give it one more kind of kick at the can? I don't know. Like at this point, I'm leaning fired, but I would not be shocked if Sheldon Keefe comes back for at least one more season.
Lots to think about, and you can find more of that on Locked On Toronto Maple Leafs with Mike DiStefano and Dave Borasuti. For more from me, you can go check out Locked On Senators. Here, we will pass it over to Power Rankings Thursday on the Locked On NHL podcast. Your team every day.